Today we're headed to Los Angeles in the late 1980s, where a rather distinctive-looking gentleman embarked on an unconventional bank robbing spree in Los Angeles, and it got him a rather unusual nickname, the Bozo Bandit. Welcome to Capers and Cocktails, a true crime podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously and gives you something to enjoy while you listen. The following content may be disturbing to some. Discretion is advised. If you're enjoying one of our themed cocktails, ensure you're of legal drinking age and have fun, but drink responsibly. In the late summer and early fall of 1988, a rather distinctive-looking gentleman started robbing banks in the Los Angeles area. He and his accomplice would pull up to a random bank, and then the gentleman would walk in. He would take a note out of his pocket and hand it to the teller, and if you can only imagine, the very creative note demanded money and said that the odd-looking fellow had a gun. The teller, wisely, would hand over the requested money, and the idiosyncratic man would walk out. Each time, no weapon was seen and no one was injured during the holdups. Fairly soon after the crimes took place, the mysterious bank robber gained a nickname from the FBI, the Bozo Bandit. Why? Well, it turns out that the surveillance footage that showed the suspect had some hair that looked quite a lot like Bozo the Clown. And while I searched and searched for way longer than I probably should have, I could not find that surveillance video. I guess it's lost, I'm sure, to the pre-internet age. But I think that most people get the idea of what the guy's hair probably looked like. And even though that suspect's hair wasn't red, we are making our cocktail and mocktail today in honor of the clown our culprit is named after, Bozo. If you don't know, Bozo the Clown is a clown who was on TV for half a century, actually. Bozo is probably best known for his big red hair, so we're making a big red drink, a cherry vodka spritzer. Spritzers are great drinks that add lightness to your favorite alcohol, even wine, and are super refreshing. They're great when it's hot outside or when you want to make something a little less boozy. I truly don't know why anyone would want to do that, but I guess maybe there's one person. To make the cocktail, you will take 1 part vodka, 2 parts cherry juice, half a part lime juice, and 1/4 part simple syrup, or a little more if you like a sweeter drink, and add those to a shaker with ice. You'll shake the ingredients until they're well chilled and combined, and then strain into a glass with fresh ice. Top with seltzer to your taste preference. Give a quick stir and top with a cherry or 2. I actually had a hard time finding seltzer for no real reason this week for the drink. So I actually just bought some black cherry sparkling water, and it was just as good, or honestly, it was probably better. To make the mocktail, you'll use all of the same ingredients, except you'll replace the vodka with your favorite non-alcoholic vodka. I do link my favorite in the description box, but if you aren't wanting to buy that, honestly, most of the time with vodka, you can just replace the quantity of vodka with water, or in this case, just add additional seltzer or sparkling water. You'll get the same refreshing quality without any of the booze. Honk your nose and drink up. Okay, so there was actually one Los Angeles FBI agent who was in charge of making up the nicknames for all of the bank robbers, at least from 1981 to 1999 in Los Angeles. His name was Bill Redder. There were, a lot of active serial bank robbers in the Los Angeles area, and it made it easier just to give them a nickname. And there was an actual rule put in place by Bill when he became the bank robbery squad's coordinator in 1981. Rob 1 bank, remain boring. Rob 2 banks, get a nickname. And according to Bill, he really thought about his nicknames. He would say, quote, "It wasn't the thing that was most obvious, that beat you over the head. A good name is something with a little backstory, a little more thought," end quote. The Marx Brothers Bandits wore fake bushy eyebrows and mustaches. The Michael Jackson Bandit wore a glove on just one hand. The Bucktooth Bandit had a bucktooth, and the Bozo Bandit had hair that made him look like the most famous clown of all time. But it wasn't his rather large hair, as it turns out, that got the bank robber nabbed in the end. 26-year-old San Pedro resident Joseph Lane Dersma was arrested on September 14th, 1988 at 3:30 p.m. in a San Pedro parking lot. This was 4 hours after the pair robbed their 10th bank in Gardena, California around 11:30 a.m. on the same day. At the same time, his accomplice, whom I'm presuming, I guess in this case to be the getaway driver, 32-year-old Mario Baricelli, was also caught. Sheriffs found $300 or about $700 modern dollars, which seems like not a lot of money for that big of a risk, but I'm not Bozo the Clown or a bank robber. But what was it that got them caught, if not those luxurious locks? It was, in fact, a sharp-eyed witness from the robbery earlier the same day at Gardena's First Interstate Bank. The eyewitness managed to spot and memorize a license plate number and description of a car that ended up matching Joseph's car. And apparently, the actual DMV was unable to track the car down, but according to a 1988 LA Times article, quote, a special sheriff's department computer, end quote, was able to track down the license plate number to a previously issued traffic ticket. Through that, they were able to get to Joseph. I was just tickled with the idea of a special computer, but this was 1988. So it probably was the absolute most cutting edge technology that was able to track a license plate number to a person. The two were arrested, and Joseph was held on $25,000 bond and Mario on $11,000 at the Lomita Sheriff's Station. If you can believe it, Joseph isn't even the only person to be named the Bozo Bandit. 35-year-old Sean Yokota was arrested by San Francisco police in 2014 for dressing up as a clown and robbing multiple pharmacies and banks in the Bay Area. The arrest followed a month-long investigation into a series of 15 robberies where Bozo would wear a clown costume each time he entered a pharmacy, revealing his pistol and demanding prescription pills. At banks, the costumed bandit would walk in and give the teller, get this, a note with his demands. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well. And in November of 2019, another Bozo Bandit wrapped a plastic bag on his head and made a mini motorcycle getaway after stealing $160, several items, the plastic bag, and the mini motorcycle from the Botanica San Miguel in Hunts Point, a neighborhood in the Bronx, actually. He kicked his feet back and weed all the way down Longwood Avenue on the stolen mini bike. The case against Joseph Lane Dersma, the 1988 Bozo Bandit, was dismissed. Maybe the district attorney didn't want to bother for the $300 and undoubtedly other small amounts he had stolen from the other banks. Specifically, the ruling was dismissal in furtherance of justice per 1385 PC, or Penal Code, which evidently can be done for a variety of factors, including prior criminal history, severity of the offense, and the likelihood of reoffending. I mean, he did rob 9 banks before, but maybe the courts were tied up with all the other serial bank robbers in Los Angeles, like the Benihana Bandit and the Clearasil Bandit. Joseph, who I think is still living, is in his early 70s. He's somewhat scrubbed from the internet, other than his occasional run-ins with the law, mostly in the 1990s. He's settled down in his older age. You know, we stan privacy here, so I won't reveal what those run-ins with the law were, even though they're public knowledge. You can look them up if you're really curious. But I'll just say that nothing he's done since has been nearly as interesting as what he did in his late 20s, inspiring an entire podcast episode. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this little short one today. I don't pick my cases based on how long of an episode I think they'll make, but I pick them purely on vibes. Will it make me chuckle? I'm in. Will it cause me to fall down 14 random and only tangentially connected rabbit holes, including a guy on a mini bike? Yeah, I'm in. I have a pretty low bar. Anyway, I hope you'll consider giving me a review on your favorite podcast listening app or on the YouTube video if that's how you're enjoying Capers and Cocktails. I'm trying to increase viewer and listenership this year, and you can help with that. It doesn't cost you anything, but I guess a little bit of time. Next week, we have a crime that involves birds and a drink that involves birds. but just in name, I promise. The ingredients for next week's drink are always in the description box if you want them. I'll see you next week. And remember, brush your hair before you commit a bank burglary, or you might earn yourself a nickname that you'll never live down.